Hi, my name is Nick Santamaria. I'm a sophomore political science major, originally from Brewster, New York. So I decided to come down south for college and I loved every moment of it. I'm running for student body treasurer because I see this as my best opportunity to really make a difference on campus. Currently, I'm the treasurer of USC Mock Trial, so in that capacity I've managed a $15,000 budget for that organization, but I've also held a leadership position this year in Student Senate as the chairman of the Academics Committee. So I sort of had the opportunity to see the student org funding process from both sides of the table. I've been a student org treasurer that's requested funds over a dozen times, but I've also seen the inner workings of the Senate Finance Committee. And so from that experience, and sort of the bulk of my platform is based on reforming that process. It takes up to 7 weeks, it takes 3 signatures and 5 different forms to actually get funding for a student organization. And that's just not a way organizations can effectively operate. That if it takes that long and that many forms and that many signatures just to get someone a check, how are we supposed to empower 400 student organizations on campus to do what they love? Whether that's networking, bringing in speakers, going to events, and hosting conferences. So my plan as student body treasurer is to bring all of the different people to the table that handle this. There are 3 different university offices that all deal with how we organize funds for student organizations, so we need to bring them to the table and cut through the red tape. Right now, our student organization treasurers don't get educated in a proper way that they actually know how to understand how to use the system. Every year we have $180,000 that goes out that's allowed to be allocated to student organizations, but we've never had a year that we've spent it all. So besides my plans for bringing everyone to the table to sort of reform that and cut through the red tape, I also want to reform student government's communications team. We do a really bad job of actually communicating with the student body. So we need more people on staff, we need dedicated graphics and social media and print and online designers to actually come forward and make sure we're communicating effectively with the student body. So that way we're actually coming together for events, that the student body knows what we're up to. Because I think a big issue with student government is its perception that it's not as active as it could be. And I think the heart of that is focused on communications, because we actually do a lot, and obviously there's room to improve, but communicating that better to students and getting more people involved is where we have to start. So my idea is to reform the student treasurers workshop. So this year I attended a workshop as an organization treasurer myself, and it's a couple of slides of a PowerPoint. It's just basically like, all right, before you request funds, you have to log on to this website, and 7 days before you travel, fill out a TA, which is a travel authorization, and 7 days after, fill out a TRV. But if you've ever actually looked at these forms, they're complicated. It contains like financial lingo that you don't understand, and then other words that only the university uses. So we need to have online and print resources available that explains every single one of these forms. And we need to have a workshop that goes through in detail, this is exactly how you use the system. Because how we get organizations to actually start being able to do more things and put on more events is we have to educate them. Give them the knowledge to take advantage of the system, so that way we're actually spending all of the money that we're given and the organizations can do what they love. So I would completely overhaul that educational system, the educational program, so that way they have the online resources that they can click anytime, and it's step-by-step instructions for every single one of those forms, but then also the contacts in each office that deals with each different step of the way. This year I've contacted 4 different staff members in different offices because they each handle a tiny little part of the process to actually request funds. And so having that transparency and knowing, okay, this is who I talk to and I have this question, that's going to make the process easier, so people aren't just sending out emails and, oh, I don't know the answer to that. And we have a process in place that works if you work to make it so. I've had to put in a lot of work just to get funding, but making it really easy and approachable for student org treasurers is what's going to mean the most to our organizations. So right now there's only about 3 people that work on the communications team. I want to expand that. So I want to have obviously a director of communications, an assistant director, and then heads in charge of graphics, social media, and our print presence. But on top of that, we need staffers that are going to want to go out to every single event that we host and go out to other events that we partner with organizations to host. We need people that are writing up newsletters and writing up, things that are going on at each and every one of our meetings, and whether we disseminate that to student media of just, updates of like, hey, this is what went on this week, or hey, this is something really cool that's coming up. So whether it's our communication with student media itself or it's our communication with the student body as a whole, we have a lot of areas to improve, and it's bringing in more people. And those people have to be absolutely dedicated to doing it and accountable to put something out on a daily basis. I know that currently we were reached out to all the candidates by someone with the university who said, I had contacted someone in student government that's a communications director, but no one's gotten back to me, so I'm contacting all of you personally. And that's something that I don't think can really happen. We need to be there for the student body, and we need to be communicating with everyone so that way we're really coming together, whether it's holding events, gathering volunteers, and we have a lot of programs that need the student body to interact with us with. We're not just there in a vacuum to do our jobs, we're there to serve the student body. So step one in that is increasing the number of people and making sure those people are dedicated and ready to do their job. So right now, the way it's broken down, without going into like too much crazy detail, it's kind of two different processes. There's a 5-week process to request the funds and get them allocated by the Student Senate, and then it's another 2-week process to get the check cut by the Controller's office that is up at 1600 Hampton. So I think the 5-week process is really where we have to focus. The 2-week process at 1600 Hampton is how the university cuts all of its checks. So I don't think they're going to approach us any different way than they approach. That's how professors get reimbursed for travel, for conferences, and things like that. So we really need to look at why does it take us 5 weeks on the student government side to approve funding. It takes 2 readings over the Senate calendar, so that's already a 2-week process. But I think there's a way that we bring the administration in and we really start asking the hard questions of, does it really take 5 weeks? I know we have an extra week in there that's just in case, but you have, let's say you have a budget dialogue. If you request over $500, you have to sit for a dialogue with the Senate Finance Committee. So they meet normally around Mondays or Tuesdays. So if they meet Monday and they approve you that night at their meeting, instead of that being read across the Senate floor that Wednesday, it's held over an entire extra week. And they read it over that following week, that Wednesday. So then that already adds an extra week to what's already a 2-week reading period. You have 1 week where it just sits there when you submit the budget online before you schedule your dialogue, and then at the end of that you have the extra week just in case a flood happens or some emergency happens. That's there as sort of a safeguard to make sure you get your money, but that adds up to 5 weeks. And I know in mock trial, we've received events to go to competitions within 7 weeks. So we get a month in advance, and then all of a sudden I'm supposed to speed through the process. I mean, it's not really possible to do, so we need to really look at the moment that budget comes in and you schedule a dialogue, you meet early in that week, that Monday or Tuesday, that Wednesday gets read across the Senate floor, the next Wednesday, which is only a week and a half later, it gets read again, and then you're approved and you can do your 2-week process. We can keep it to around a month if we really start cutting out the extra time. So the main reason I'm really looking for the Daily Gamecock support and looking for everyone's vote is that I think I'm the only candidate with the experience with this system. It's complicated and it's bureaucratic and there's a lot of red tape. I've spoken to the people in these offices and I've been through the system firsthand. I filled out the forms. I know the struggles with dealing with it. So in making this system efficient, you really need someone that's ready to step in day one and get the job started. I know how it works and I know the areas where we need to improve it. On top of that, my experience in student government means I know it's feasible. I know that we're not going to get a contract with Uber because we already have contracts with cab companies that provide services like Carolina Cab, that just this past fall semester serviced 15,000 students. So I know exactly what student government is capable of doing, but I know what we're capable of doing better. My entire goal is to reform this process to empower the 400 student organizations we have on campus. Only 59 of those this year have taken advantage of the funding process. And worse than that, we've allocated $160 of the $180,000 this year, but that's just what we approved. Only $44,000 of that has actually been spent. That means to go through the entire system, only a quarter of the money that we said, yes, you're allowed to take it, has actually gone through and paid for whatever services we approved. It means the system's grossly inefficient, the forms aren't easy to understand or explain, and we need someone that's going to come in there and ask the tough questions. Say, hey, student organizations need to be treated different than a professor getting reimbursed for travel or the university paying one of its bills. So I really hope that you'll consider supporting me as I run for treasurer. I believe I have the experience to really make a lot of changes happen here on campus and improve the opportunities for student organizations.